So why Ghana? What inspired y'all to go to Ghana?
You want to
I'll,
go there?
I'll let you bring that one up because it's very involved and very in depth. But I'll just say that it started out with talking to a Ghanaian brother.
No, it
No,
didn't.
it didn't.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Well, he helped fill in some gaps that we had. That was a
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But it actually didn't start from a dream.
Um, yeah. Actually, what happened was we were looking to move from where we were living at the time. We actually wanted to do something with this was before SALT even came about. We were going to be a part of that. We were looking at land. I wanted to move to Tennessee, but Ishai doesn't like the cold, So we were weighing all our options. So what we did, we took it to the Most High. We took it to the feet of the Most High, and did prayer and fasting, and then I had a dream. I dreamt about this word and the Father deals with me in dreams a lot via dreams,
Every
and
day.
there was that was almost every day, and there was this word in the dream, and at the time I didn't know anything about Accra, so I asked my ish. I said, "Have you ever heard of some place called Accra?" Because that's how I thought it was pronounced, and it was only spelled with one C, which later I actually found out that's originally how it was spelled. It was only spelled with one C, not two. So
Wow.
he said, "No, I've never heard of this place." So we just put it in the recesses of our mind. And we used to have Shabbat study. We would host sometimes, and another Aki, he would host. So one Shabbat, we were at his home, and we were having a Shabbat with the Mishpachah there at the time. And I think on lunch break or after Shabbat, the Aki told everybody, he was like, "I'm moving me and my family to Accra." I said, "Aki, how do you spell that?" And he spelled it. And I was like, Ishai, I think that's where the Father's trying to lead us. But at that point, we still weren't sure. And we asked the brother, "Where is Accra?" We didn't even know where it was. We'd never been to the motherland, to the continent before. Never had any desires of going, as a matter of fact. And so, because we believed all the hype about everything everybody says about it. So we put that in the recesses of our mind. And a few months later, um, there was a brother I actually wanted to meet. And I, to
Yeah.
Brother Basel, I had wanted to meet him. And because of his teachings on Torah, and just to keep it real, I don't believe everything he teaches, but his Torah teachings are on point. And I'll leave it at that. So I wanted to meet him because that's all I had seen from him at the time. And there was a Hebrew gathering coming up in Detroit, and was it Detroit? Yeah, it was a Hebrew gathering
Right.
coming up in Detroit. Um, and so there were other things that happened, but I'm trying to keep a long story short because the father, he was just showing us this is where you're going. So we were like, well, Accra, and we stayed in prayer and fasting, and we asked the father, if this is actually where you're trying to send us, um, show us that this is where you want to send us. Make it plain, make it plain. And so I didn't know where Basel came from. So we went to the gathering, we met him. And as you know, we had even contemplated with some other brews in moving to South America and doing some work with an orphanage there. So we had, okay, Africa, South America, but we didn't really know where the Father was leading us. So we were like, well, if you really want us to go to this place, let it be known. So we went to the gathering. Turns out the brother is actually from the Accra, Ghana area. So when we met him, all that came out, and it just kind of catapulted from there. His family members, one's a driver, one's a real estate agent. I mean, just it was like the father just started laying out the red carpet because he said he asked us because we told him we were considering South America, and he said, "Have you ever thought about Africa?" And I said, "Well, there is this one brother who's moving his family to Africa," and he says, "Oh, I'm from Africa," and we said, "Well, where are you from?" He said, "Accra." I mean, it was just like you're kidding me. You're kidding me right now. It's like, Father, really? And so we said, well, I don't know. We don't really know anybody there, like we knew anybody in South America, right? So we've never been there before. We wouldn't know where to start. So he says, if you're really contemplating it, here's my information. Let me know. And we were doing Shabbat studies with Basel at that time. So we still wasn't sure. We're like, Father, we see some of these signs,
We're looking
but
for a way out.
yeah, right. We're like, is this for real? Is this really? Wait, we don't know nothing about that place. So I remember saying to the Father, I know it's a wicked generation that asks for a sign. We're not wicked, as you know, but we want to make sure this is you speaking to us. We're not trying to make any missteps. And so I was like, if this is truly where you want us to go, give me a sign. I went to Wally World the next day. And for people who don't use the Walmart, I went to Walmart and a brother walked in front of me with a t-shirt on that said Ghana. I
Oh
said,
man. Oh.
really? For real, for real. So I went home and I told Ishai, it looks like we're going to Ghana. We just didn't know when at the time we had planned a first visit. We had planned a month long. We were going to come and stay for 3 weeks. And Brother Bazo had arranged that. COVID shut that down. They put everything on lockdown. So we didn't get that visit. And the Most High gave me another dream because Ishai had wanted to wait another year. We had our plans. So we were going to wait a whole nother year. And so the Father gave me another dream, and it was be ready to move shortly after Sukkot of that year. And so we set about selling everything, including the house. As you know, we had a beautiful home. We had these great jobs. The Father was like, you're doing this, and here's when I want you to do it, not in your time. This is when. And we were like, but everything's locked down. He said, be ready to go after Sukkot this year. So we made plans to be ready to go that year, and sure enough, the lockdown was lifted. Ghana opened its airspace, and a week later, we were gone. We were gone. A one-time visit, no nothing. And again, the Father laid out the red carpet. We had help every step of the way. And yes, Basel was instrumental in that with his family on this side. They helped us tremendously on finding land, and showing us, around, driving us around. Of course, you paying for stuff. Nobody's doing nothing for free. But his brother was a driver at the time, and so he would let us use his services for the whole day. And it was weird because he's actually Basil's twin. We met his parents. I mean, because we asked the Father, we were like, if this is what you want to do, then you need to help us do this, because what are we starting from? We're going to just go there, go stay in a hotel. And I know that's not what you want for us. And also show us what you want us to do when we get there. And that is when Berakah Infinity came about. We didn't know nothing about opening no foundations. We just knew we wanted to do some charity work anywhere. The Father actually had us. And we got a phone call, and somebody was like, hey, you ever thought about opening a foundation? Hey, here's a brother that can help you set up a foundation. And then, he said, well, you need to be thinking about names, for your foundation and the angle you want it to go, this, that, and the third. And so we fasted and prayed before the Most High. And that's where the name Berakah Infinity came from. And we're just out here doing the Most High's work. And it's just when the Father tells you to do something, you have to. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, did this really happen? I mean, we're 6 years in at this point, and I'm like, did this really happen? Are we really here? How much longer are we gonna stay? And the Father's just like, we'll just focus on doing the work. Just take it day by day and focus on doing the work. So that is how we ended up in Ghana. We didn't know nothing about no year of return in no 2019. We didn't know nothing about none of that. We didn't have no YouTube channel where we had people raise money to fund us on this end of no, none of that. It's Father said that's where you're going. That's where you're going. We didn't want to. I was like, really? That's Isha. That's where we're going. Yeah, that's where we're going. You have to step out on faith, but you have to make sure that when you step out on faith, that it's actually the Father leading you and not the adversary.
Yeah.
Because if the Father does not guide your steps and you go and move out of fear, because we were fine with staying in the U.S., doing all our little stuff there. We were set, actually. We were just looking for some land to transition. But if the Father is not leading you, you shouldn't move. I don't care if it's someplace else in America or wherever you may be, the UK, Canada, wherever you may be scattered in the world. If the Father doesn't tell you to go, you shouldn't go. And you need to be in tune with him so you can actually hear that still small voice or be connected to him via those dreams through fasting. So when he speaks, you're actually listening and you can actually be obedient to his word.
Praise Yahuwah. Man, I've never heard the fullness of that testimony before. Like, I know we
That's why I
talked.
always give people the short version.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it, but definitely never heard it that in depthly, and that is so powerful. I knew going into the interview today that you were going to have some things to share with the people that were going to be, very, I would say, inspirational at the same time. I would say, I don't know if unorthodox is the right word. I understood that your journey was a lot different than a lot of people that we have interacted
Mhm.
with. We're probably gonna have to break this up into a couple of parts because the things that the people need to hear from you guys, it's so intricate, and that right there in and of itself is like wow to hear the word coming in a dream and then the word being expressed through one person that you had fellowship,
Mhm.
another brother that's where he was from that you had fellowship, then asking for a sign, and then the very next day the sign coming, and it's like, well, what do you do now? You ask for
Right. Obey.
Right.
yeah, yeah, and like I said, I was just having a conversation with a brother about this very topic, and it was a different type of scenario, but it was like the scenario that got brought up. It was just like, everybody is not prepared to really surrender. Like it sounds
Mhm.
good. I
It sure
serve the Most
does.
High.
And
I surrender to the Most
practicality.
High. Whatever you want me to do, until it's like, yo,
Mhm.
sell everything you got and go to Ghana.
Right. That's right.
And let's see what you're really
And don't
about.
look back. Yeah,
And now let's see what
and as a
you
matter of fact, Aki, the move was like there was so much, like they say here, wahala, wahala, so much trouble. The move itself, selling the house and all our goods, that was not the issue. But we had initially the stuff that we
that
had
part.
actually wanted to move.
I
Say
remember that
again?
part. I remember that part where y'all was trying
Yeah,
to
the
get stuff
stuff.
over there, and it was
Yeah, the stuff that we had put in storage to ship over here, the movers didn't show up. I mean, it was just crazy. The timeline for the trailer to get to the port and where we lived, it was right there at the port. What we didn't know is there was a brother sitting and listening because we were bickering back and forth because Ishai was like, "There's no way we're going to be able to get this done." I was like, "I don't care. We're going to do everything that we can do to get this done." And so the brother finally gets out of the truck, and to make a long story short, this was no ordinary brother. This brother commanded people. I mean, like all nations of people. He made phone calls. People brought him food. He made phone calls. People sent help. He talked about how he didn't pay no taxes. How I mean, the things he talked about is like, is this person human? It was weird. And he told me he said you I see you got to pull out a chair in there that you taking. Take that chair out. Sit down beside me. He was like, you too stressed out. Sit down, talk to me. And he brought me down. He taught me off a ledge, and he was just saying everything the Father tells you to do, just do it. It's gonna work out. Don't look back. No matter what somebody says, no matter what someone does, just keep doing what the Father tells you to do. And he was supposed to charge us extra because it did take longer, because when his people came, we had already gone into a few hours of loading the truck. So by the time the people came and finished loading it, it was after that time. And the
Wait.
brothers, and we were like, well, what's going to happen? Because we already have this ready for shipment. He said, don't worry about it. He says, I'm going to sit at the gate all night. And when the port opens, I'm going to be there and I'm going to make sure your container is on that ship. So don't worry about it. But when I say he commanded people and people listen, and when one guy of another nation, I hate to refer to people by color because it's not about color, it's about nations. When one guy from another nation came that he had called, he said, tell them what I say goes. When I give a command, it happens. And he said, that's right. When he says do something, people do it. I was like,
Okay.
okay, okay. It was profound. It was profound. If the Father tells you to do something, he truly means you only have to have faith, the grain of a mustard seed. If you have that, he will take care of the rest, no matter what happens. And he will give you inspiration during that time. Like I said, that brother told us, no, you're going to have, issues come up. And we didn't even know the issues that would face us on the other side. But he says, don't you ever doubt. Don't you ever turn back. You just keep pushing forward and you do whatever the Father tells you to do. And he drove off into the night. And that was the last we ever saw him.
Wow.
That was, oh, I forgot all about that story. That brother, he was definitely sent from the Most High, because when you take your carnal mind and look at the odds that were stacked against us, number one, we had a 40-foot container parked in front of a storage facility
They had to be moved.
that moved at a certain time. And then I called the movers. We try to give our people an opportunity to, do our move, do a good job, and make some decent money off of it. All I got was crickets, and hang up on the phone.
And then stop answering the phone.
I had already confirmed with these people, tell them, make sure you be there this time. And they're like, yeah. No show, none whatsoever. It was through that brother that the Most High sent to us,
or messenger, whoever.
a messenger. that all worked out, because it was definitely not our doing at all. We didn't know how this thing was gonna get done. It was supposed to be like a 5-hour window to get that thing loaded.
We were already into hour 2, 3.
That truck didn't leave till 11 o'clock that night, and it was supposed to be around 1 or 2.
And he sat with us the whole time.
Wow. Wow. And I know from a logical frame of mind, as you know what I mean, a lot of times us men take the perspective of, I could hear you, like, yo, this ain't gonna happen. Like there's no way that this is gonna work. Like, you know what I mean? It took something supernatural, and praise the Most High for showing himself mighty. And that's just another testament to the faith. And I think that story really will help continue to propel you. And I know it helped to propel you through the early stages of your journey in Ghana. Like, well, that all it happened just for us to come out here for nothing. Like, that all there was a purpose behind those things. So, let's take it a step further back. Like, if we can, whatever you guys can elaborate on, as far as, your meeting and your journey and just you coming to know the Most High at all. Did you guys know the Most High before you came into the journey together? Did you know the Most High after you guys got married? Did you come to know him after you got married? Like, how did that all play out?
For me, I was just a typical Christian in in name only. I never read the book. I didn't go to church, and I didn't know much of anything. So all my understanding came later as an adult. I didn't read much of anything. I didn't know much of anything at all. So and as far as a meeting, I've known my wife since the fifth grade,
10
so
since we were 10 years old.
we were even in the
That's
same.
Yeah, we lived in the same community.
Yeah.
I've known Ishai. I've known Ishai and his entire family since we were 10 years old. Yeah,
fifth
yeah,
grade.
absolutely.
I know you
Definitely.
told me that before, but I'm
We've
just
known
remembering.
each other almost our whole lives.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. But as far as coming into the truth, we weren't in the truth when we first got married. Like he said, we were Christians, and not so good Christians. You know, we didn't go to church on Sunday mainly because I wasn't feeling it. We tried to wake up on Sunday morning and go to church. We would go every now and again, you know, to please my mother-in-law, but we just weren't feeling it. We just never felt the Father there. You know, we tried various churches, we did, but I even tried to join a church one time. I went through the whole class, everything, and I heard that still small voice when it was time to become a member of the church. I heard that still small voice tell me the only place your name needs to appear is in the book of life. Walk away.
Mm.
So I walked away from that church, and it wasn't till years later that we came into the truth. Initially, it was myself. I came into the truth. My sister, she, we were having a conversation on the Jewish people. And she said to me, "You know, they're not the people." And I was like, what are you talking about?" She said, "You know what? I know you don't believe nothing nobody tells you. You have to learn stuff for yourself," which she's right. You know, like the good book says, prove all things. I don't believe nothing nobody tells me. So she says, "Well, I'm going to send you this book. You read the book and then you give me a call." So the book came 2, 3 days later, and the name of the book was Into Egypt Again with
Shit.
Ships.
Wow.
And I know there's a longer title, but that's about all I can remember at the time. And I started reading that book. And when I started reading that book, I couldn't put it down. I could not put that book down. And after I finished reading the book, I started reading other books where the Father was leading me. And I've read scripture my whole life. I've been reading scripture since I was 8 years old. I've loved the Most High since I was 8 years old, but I didn't know the Most High. He was looking out for me, but at that time I didn't know him. And so just thought I did via a Christian perspective. So after reading that book, I started reading other books, and it led me into even more truth that solidified that we are the Father's chosen people scattered throughout the world. And because I didn't want to take this message to my ish without having all my ducks in a row. You know, I don't just like springing stuff on people. I needed to be solidified in what I was going to present to him. And Ishai is so laid back. So I took the eating kitchen table, and it was just full of books because I had ordered other books. The history of I pronounce it Herodotus. I know everybody doesn't pronounce it that way. Um, but those that call him the father of history, the father of history. I read some of his books. I read just all kind of books, um, ancient books, and everything came right back to the father's truth. Everything that brother brought out in his book, Into Egypt Again with Ships, and I was like, wow, this is it, you know. And that took me, I think, about a month. So Ishai didn't say anything. He would just see me go to work, and then after I would get off from work, I would just go to that table and I would just read and research for hours. And he never said, "What's your problem? What are you doing?" He just let me go on my little journey, and he just watched me. As long as the meals kept getting made, and he didn't care. He okay, she's feeding me. Just go on your little journey. So when I was finished, I presented it to him. I said, "I'm not," and I didn't want to lead him. So I said, "I don't want to lead you. So I want you to read this book, and we'll have a conversation after you finish the book. We can talk about it." And so after he read the book, that's when he did. But the whole time, like while he was reading the book, the Father was dealing with me. And it was like he took my brain and turned it from upside down to right side up, because it was like everything I had been taught was a lie. I mean, on every single level. And I'm still learning things that's a lie to this very day. You know, it wasn't just us that had their identities hijacked. The ancient Greeks aren't the ancient Greeks. You know, the ancient Brits aren't the ancient Brit. I mean, it's everything. Everything is a lie. The world is right now, this age of the world is one great big lie. And I went through a lot of spiritual things. I won't go into it because it'll make the video even longer. But I went through a lot of spiritual things during that time, via dreams, via visions. Um, Spiritual attacks. I was going through it. The adversary was trying to bring me back to the baseline of Christianity, because he was like, you know, just stop doing what you're doing and the attacks will stop. You know, but the Father knows all his children. Once the Father gives me some truth, I'm all in. I'm 100. I'm not turning back. You know, I'm not taking my hand from the plow. Yeah, I want the spiritual attacks to stop, but I'm going to cry out to the Most High for those spiritual attacks to stop. I'm not going to draw back. So I was going through all that while Ishai was reading the book. And then after he read the book, we put our heads together, and I showed him all the other evidence that I had found that validated that brother's book. And we took it from there. And, you know, we kept meeting others who were in the walk. It's just been a profound spiritual journey. The Father even showed me, because, you know, of course, I called my sister back and we had a conversation. And the Father even showed me in a dream where there were other books. There were other books than the 66 in the KJV. It was in the dream. There was the scriptures and the pages on a table, and the pages just started turning by themselves, and it went to the back, and there were these blank pages, and they started being written upon with like the hand of fire, and words
Wow.
started
Wow.
forming. And when I woke up from the dream, I told Ishai, and I was like, Ishai, I think there's got to be other books. The Father showed me that this isn't it. And he said, well, your mom had some books that I kept, because at the time I was living in another state. And Ishai, when my mother had passed, um, a whole lot of her home was sold, and a whole lot of her things were put in storage. And Ishai went and got a whole lot of her books and stuff out of storage, because he knows I love to read. And he said, your mom had some scriptures, and why don't you just go and see what's in those? You act like, where does that come from, right? Who would think? So I went. It was an apocrypha book. It was a 1611 KJV, 1611. And I opened that book. I was like, wow, whoa, wow, right now. So when the Father speaks, we have to be prepared to listen. And so he showed me these are some other books. And then I find out even later, there's even more books. And as long as they go back to that core, you know, that core 66, and nothing is crazy and weird, you know, and it's mentioned in other books of the core 66, because I don't believe that the Catholic Church has the right to say what's canon and not canon. They are not the keepers of the Father's word. So we read a lot of the other books, and we make sure that there's witnesses to the core 66. And as long as they're validated, you know, by 2 or 3 witnesses, we read them. We've learned a lot from them, as you know, as we study together, and we just keep it moving. But when the Father speaks, we have to be ready to listen. So that's pretty much our journey of coming into the truth. And it just grew from there as we found out other people were in the truth, that we weren't the only ones on the planet. And we started reaching out to others. And then we met yourself and a whole lot of other beautiful Akis and Akots. And oh my goodness, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And we keep learning every day, and just staying in tune with the Most High and being guided where He seeks for us to go, spiritually and physically.
See, for me,
Yeah.
it was an advantage to have a clean slate, to just have
Yeah.
a Christian mindset and name only. It wasn't hard to convince me.
Christian ideology. Yeah, he had, like he said, he had a clean slate.
Yeah, we have a similar background, bro, because I stopped going to church. I mean, some of my first memories were church, but I don't think by the time kindergarten, first grade rolled around, I was still going to church. So it wasn't hard for me, like, because sometimes when people get that indoctrination and that religious spirit is a very difficult spirit to break because nobody
Oh,
wants to believe
yes.
that they have been, you know, it's easier to fool somebody than to convince them that they've been fooled. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
So
Right.
true. That is so true.
people don't want to believe that they've been had.
Hmm.
It's that ego
Right.
comes in, the
Right.
pride comes in
Hmm.
and all of that. So, this, I know I've told you guys this before. Y'all need to go ahead and put together the buyout. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and just pin the buyout. No, you don't, you know what I mean? You've been ducking the long drawn out book, but that's the book because these testimonies of the various signs and wonders and the dreams and the way that you have been moved in your life is you can't make this stuff up. You know what I mean? And that's
Hmm.
one of the things it's like trying to explain to somebody that the Most High exists and you know it. And
Hmm.
it's like a testimony to that. Like you have to experience it for
Right.
yourself in order for you to understand what it is.
For yourself.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like when
Right.
we have that
Absolutely.
aha
Yeah.
moment to realize we've been lied to, like it's not for
Hmm.
everybody because we have
Right.
told that's the same, given these same books, the same understanding to other people, and they look
Right.
like we're crazy. It's like, how don't you see it? It's right here.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
praise Yahuwah for that. Praise Yahuwah for you two, your journey, your what you guys have dedicated yourselves to as a couple. It's just amazing. Like, how long have you guys been married for?
18 years.
Eight,
We've known each other forever. 18 years. Yeah. Married.
18 years.
Hmm.
So, what counsel can you
18
share?
easy years.
Easy peasy,
Easy
Easy.
peasy.
easy peasy. What counsel can you share for young couples beginning their spiritual journey together? Any counsel, any words of advice?
You
Don't
go
have
first.
Um,
just
I would say, never stop growing and thinking, and this is for anybody really, and thinking that just because you've been in the walk or you know somebody's been in the walk 200 years and that they know it all. Um, Gray hairs don't always equal wise. So
mm,
always be open to learning because in this walk and in most jobs that you have today, you got to be fluid. You got to know when to maneuver at different times. So I would just say for new people or just young people, young couples, um, know, and you're gonna have to be in the ruach too. You're gonna have to know who you give your time to because everybody doesn't have the same motivation. Some
yeah.
people are just getting followers and maybe try to get a little money along the way. But
Mm,
for young people and young couples, just be careful about who you give your time to and who you study with. Um, and the second thing I want to say is coming over here in Ghana has definitely opened our eyes to experiencing this culture. And in America, we have a mindset and belief system. We can call it our Torah that we know we stand on. If we know everything, and if anybody comes outside of what we think we know, they're wrong. Well, when you come to other cultures, um, there's more information than you know,
okay.
and there's some information you don't know. And some people have it orally,
Mm.
and it's
Uh,
not written down. You see things, you experience things, and you know it's coming from the scripture, but to them it's just tradition,
Culture.
culture.
Mhm.
But when we
wow.
see it and we relate it because we know scripture pretty well, we know it's coming right out of scripture. And I actually took time to write down. We did it together.
Mhm.
Write down. I think I named it something like the Hebrewisms in Ghana or something
Right.
like that. How we try to relate everyday things that we see here in Ghana to a scripture verse.
Wow.
And it's vast. there are a lot of things that people do that is scripture based.
Mhm.
And you cannot tell me that the people here are not part of the book. Not everybody,
Most of
but
them just don't live it.
right. At the same time that they're living it, just like our people were back in the day, they worship other deities too. So, at the same time, you still see it. You see the connection to the book. And just because, people might follow the book or not follow the book doesn't mean that they don't have that knowledge. So
Gotcha.
I'll leave it right there.
Praise the
The
Lord.
wisdom that I would give, starting with people who are not married, first and foremost, you better be led by the Most High for a mate, because there are so many people out here that are faking the walk. I've heard horror stories about people who even claim to be set apart, and they truly aren't. I won't go into any detail, but I mean, especially if you already have children, you want to watch who you have around your children. Just because someone is swinging fringes, or on the opposite side wearing a headscarf and she's got a skirt on clean down to her ankles, doesn't truly make that person set apart. Make time to know that person. Get to know that person when everything is going great, and also when things are going south, because the true character of a person is going to come out when things go wrong. Is that person going to blame you, because they can't take responsibility for certain things, or they don't want to look at themselves as being faultless? But also, so just let the Father lead you in a spouse, and I'll come back to that later. And this is another testimony. But for those who are married, I would say, if the Most High is not the center of your marriage, it is going to fail. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care how much counseling you call yourself getting. If the Father is not the center of your household, is and everything is in order. It's a lot of times, especially as Hebrews, I call it Hebrews, us lionesses, um, we like to lead, and it came out of a need, because of being scattered and having our families broken on purpose. So we've become so strong. You need to learn to let that brother lead. As long as he's leading you via the word of the Most High. And you're going to know, because he's kind, he's patient, he's sincere, he's humble, yet he's strong, and even though he's all those things, when you need, like, I don't know what the word is, spontaneous, but Ishai is more laid back. So sometimes I'm like, come on, let's do this. And he was like, no, we need to consider A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, and I'm just trying to get it done. And
Yeah.
you need to let that brother lead. You have to, bring your ideas, absolutely. And sometimes you have to be the helper against him, because you'll see him, maybe listening to somebody he shouldn't be listening to. You might have information that you're privy to that he doesn't have. So you need to be his sounding board, his support, his helpmate, but when needed, the helper against him. In humility, sincerity, and love. But let the Father be the center of your marriage. And going back to letting the Father choose your mate for you, we got another testimony. When Ishai wanted to date me, he went to my brother. And now we're Christians. He went to my brother. He asked my brother if he could date me, my older brother. And my brother gave him permission. When he came to me, I said no, because I wasn't trying to date anybody. That's not where my headspace was at the time. I was climbing that corporate ladder. I was trying to get mine. So, and again, the Father deals with me in dreams. So I had this dream, and I saw us on a beach with our family, and I didn't think anything of it. So Isha and I and our children, we were on the beach with my in-laws. Sessions of my mind, I went on about my business. My sister-in-law comes along maybe a month later, and she says, I had the weirdest dream that I saw you and Ishai um, at a beach, with us, and the whole family was there. And I was like, you see, Father, here we go. And again, we're still Christians at the time. So I was like, wow. And then I told her, she was like, see, that's a sign. That's a sign. And my brother had already been like, oh, you too good for my friend, because, being that we were neighbors, they were best friends. My brother and Ishai were best friends. You too good for my friend. Why you want to date my friend? And so I was like, I'm not trying to date anybody. But when my sister-in-law told me her dream, I was like, wow, there's the witness.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I called you or you called me again. Oh, I know what it was. I would always call him because I wanted help. Because I told you I'm not a computer person. I would always call him from my job to his job and get computer advice and make him walk me through stuff to fix my computer. And he would all, in sincerity and love, he would always help me walk through it, even though I wasn't giving him the time of day. And he asked me again, for a date. And I remember telling him, all right, we can go out on a date, but you got one shot at this. And if you blow it, I'm done. And that
Oh my goodness, Pamiyah.
and I meant it. I meant it
Oh my
wholeheartedly because
goodness.
my headspace was just different. I was not, I wasn't trying to find a mate. The Father knows I was not trying to find a mate. I was trying to, because I had come out of a marriage with a Gentile that was so evil, wicked, and mean, and even me not being in the truth, being a Christian, no one marries to get a divorce. I didn't separate from this man. I didn't divorce him because no one's supposed to go into a marriage to get divorced. So I endured all of that anguish. And so coming out of that sham of a marriage, and let me tell you, it was a sham. He was even married to someone else. I didn't even know it before we got married, but that's neither here nor there. So when I came out of all of that
Yeah.
cesspool of nonsense, my headspace was different. I was just being about, doing what I need to do because I gave him everything. I walked away from everything. And that again is a testimony. The Father told me, let him have it. I'm going to give you everything back and then some. This is that still small voice, and so I was like, okay, fine. So he said, well, let's just separate. And later the Father split. He split that thing. Separation came into a full-blown divorce because he didn't want to change. He, like I said, he was evil, he was wicked, and we had to go through the formality of a divorce because he finally did end his first marriage. So then the second marriage becomes valid in that state. So you still have to go through a formal divorce. But so coming out of that, I wasn't trying to be with anyone. I was going to be single for the rest of my life and be, a Christian and just live my life and rise up the corporate ladder. So in coming back into the wisdom for a marriage, so I came into the marriage headstrong, but it equaled out because Ishai was so laid back. And when we did come into the truth, it wasn't Ishai that said, don't dress this way, or why are you doing this, or why are you doing that. The Father took care of all that. He was
Praise.
like, you're not wearing makeup no more. You're not, what are you doing? And I was like, the Father told me he created me perfect, just the way he created me. And he doesn't want me wearing them kind of clothes, and the face that he gave me is perfect. You don't need that. Not that I'm saying that sisters can't rock makeup if they want to wear a little makeup. But for me, the Father was like, that's not you. I didn't tell you to paint your face. The face I gave you is the face I want you to represent me. So he saw all these changes. I started wearing the set apart clothing. The Father changed me from the inside out. And I literally, and this is so crazy, I literally learned an example of love by watching Ishai. Because before coming into the truth, my love was selfish. It's the average female, me, gimme, gimme, gimme. And coming into the truth, with the father, and I saw Ishai, he was so laid back, he was so patient, he was so loving, even when times that someone else would have just been like, you need to just go somewhere and you just need to freaking sit down. He was always, his tone was so kind and loving. I literally learned the um the example of love through him and started reciprocating that love to him. giving him the totality of the respect that he deserves, demanding that he be the head of the household, the priest of his household in all things, and step back, giving help, as needed and as necessary, working on things together when necessary, but gladly watching. And two, we as sisters, we can't change our ish. And I'm saying this to the sisters who might be married to someone who's not in the truth. You're not that man's head. He's your head. So
Okay.
if your man's not walking in the truth, you need to take that up with his head. You need to take it to the Most High, and he will make the changes. All you got to do is keep doing your part, and the Father will take care of the rest. If that's really the mate that he gave you, he's going to take care of the rest. Because like this says, it's the righteous man deserves a righteous Isha, and so he will take care of those things. And there was areas that Isha was lacking. He didn't like to read script. He would always fall asleep. We had Shabbat studies and he didn't want to do the lessons. I was actually doing the lessons. Of course, others had issues with that. So I started praying to the Father those things. And Father just started working with him. Now Ishai sleep through script. Are you kidding me? This brother will get up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and he's reading his scriptures before he starts his day. And I'm just like, wow, okay, his prayers are on point. He's the priest of his household. He's like, we doing this Shabbat, and or did you have something else that you wanted to bring out for us to look at? So take your issues with your ish to the Most High. It's not your job to change your ish. Your husband is the Father's job, because he is your husband. Your ish is head, and he will take care of that. Just stay in your lane and do the things that the Father will have you to do, and he will if you're doing his will, he's so mercifully going to take care of the rest. But if you're not doing you the way the Father tells you, if you're not walking in step with the Most High, it's not going to happen. All you're going to have is constant tension in the household. Ishai and I, we don't argue. That's childish. It's childish. We have discussions. We're not screaming and hollering and shouting. For what? One person's not listening to the other. Be kind, you one to another. Show real love. Love is an action. It's not a feeling. So show love through your actions, not just to the Father, but to your mate. And everything else is going to work itself out.
Praise Yahuwah. Gems from the learned. In closing, to get some more of those gems, we're about to close out here shortly. What advice do you have, or what counsel do you have for people looking to move back across the water to one of our pit stops? If people are looking back to move, because there's a large, and I know you touched on this to an extent. You did speak on the fact that if the Most High is not leading you, stay your behind where you at. But
Absolutely.
other than that, do you have any words of wisdom? And I know you have a book, another book of Koti, where you go into this in more detail. And we will also have that book or access to that book featured when you're featured as Ministry of the Month. But what words of wisdom can you share with people looking to move back, family, with people looking to move back to Africa?
Uh, ooh, you definitely have to have the connection to the Most High. You have to prove all things. There will be so many people willing to take your money so fast and give you nothing in return, or very little in return. So prove all things. You have to try that ruach.
Trust no one.
Trust no one. I don't care if that person say he a pastor, if that person say he is set apart,
Or
or
Christian.
Christian, whatever. Prove all things and try that ruach before you hand over any of your hard-earned money, because they're not going to respect it at all.
And they're not going to feel bad when they take everything and leave you destitute. They're not going to feel bad at all. So the book, for those who are considering Ghana, if the Father's leading them to Ghana, is called So You Want to Move to Ghana. And you're going to have to look for the author, Hannah P. Yacob. That's my pen name. And so in the book, we lay out what it takes to be legal to stay in Ghana. Certain things you need to know upon embarking on your journey here. What to bring, what not to bring. Ishai gave me a lot of wisdom. There's a whole chapter dedicated to electrical works because it's in the U.S. it's 120, here it's 240, like Europe. So what electronics you might want to bring, what electronics you might want to sell or give away. So there's a whole section for that. And it walks you through everything you need to know before you move here, the good and the bad. So
and things we wish we had.
Right, the things we wish we had, and I wrote it early on, so the keep your money close part is not in there. We're telling you that now through our own experiences, like the Father, His Word says that put that trust in no man. Cursed is the man that trusts in man and makes strength his arm, and it is so true. Your cursing can come by way of you being broke. Having your family broke apart, because some of the things that we have gone through here, if our marriage was not centered in the Most High, we'd be divorced, or we would not listen to the Most High, and we would turn back. We would go back. But whether the Father is leading you to Ghana, to Tanzania, to South Africa, South America, someplace else in the U.S., just be mindful that you, like I said earlier, you need to consult him. Cry out to him in prayer and through fasting. If you don't get an answer, that just might be your answer. I know people are saying, oh, everybody needs to flee Babylon or the daughter of Babylon. Absolutely. But the Father also tells us that he is going to gather his people from the four corners of the earth. So that includes where you are now. Right. And what people need to realize is there needs to be boots on the ground everywhere, because when things go spiritually dark, his people are going to be, his called and chosen people are going to be light in all this darkness. And there's going to be light around the globe. So he's not calling every single person to come to this continent. Will there be a time when he does? Maybe. Absolutely. But we have to do what the good book says. We need to be pilgrims on the earth. And as things progress, which they are progressing rapidly, we just need to be in tune with the Most High and be ready to move at a moment's notice, even if it's somewhere else on the continent that you are now. And let me tell you this as well, for everyone who may be considering a move. If the Father tells you to go somewhere, it doesn't matter what obstacles he throws in your way. And we have testimonies, but I'm not going to bring those testimonies out because I don't want to give the adversary any information. But if the Father tells you to do something, I don't care what part of the globe you're on. When he tells you to go where he tells you to go, he's going to make a way for you to get there. It does not matter what's not available to the masses. It will become available to you. So just stand firm in your faith in the Most High and be ready to go and move when he tells you to move. And if he says stand firm right where you are, be ready to stand firm right where you are.
Praise Yahuwah. Man, this has been educational, inspiring. The anointing on the prophecy and the dreams is awe-inspiring. I think this is going to be very beneficial to the people. In closing, if you do have any closing comments or things that you want to share with the people in closing, the floor is yours. And then from that point, we'll go ahead and end today's interview.
Okay, I'll start. This is especially for the young people, like you mentioned earlier, single, married, whichever. When the scripture says endure to the end, that's what you have to do. And when you examine that word endure, that in itself tells you this walk is not going to be easy. Because if it was easy, you're not enduring anything. Mm-hmm. So endurance means you're going to face some trouble. And like they say here, wahala, big trouble. If you're not facing trouble, then maybe you need to check doing self-examination of where you are at in your walk, because you might need to get in line, because the last time I checked, all the apostles went through it. All the people that I know that are in this truth have gone through all types of different scenarios where they're facing trouble. So when you're in this walk, when you're getting closer to the Most High, you're going to face some trouble. You're going to face adversity from friends, family, might be your child, might be co-worker, might be a random person that don't know you at all. Yeah, it could be a neighbor. But just know that you have to build that spiritual endurance, that endurance muscle. Get that thick skin, because you're going to go through adversity. You're going to go through trouble, and you just have to build that thick skin. And you have to just, sometimes you have to cut people off in love, but you have to just cut people off or put them to the side. And I'm sure a lot of people in the truth have dealt with what I'm talking about right now. We don't want to cut people off, but sometimes when you're not getting any fruit from that relationship, it's best to just put them to the side, pray for them. Hopefully, they wake up. Maybe you might share some truth with them. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth from people they know that they're closest to. They might have to hear it from somebody else. You might have planted the seed, but somebody else is going to have to just water it, and the Most High give the increase. It might not be through you. You might have just did your small little part, and that's it. And don't try to press it. So I would just say, for people, learn to endure.
And I'm gonna llama back off of that and just add, we're at a time, and I'm speaking to the Mishpachah, those of all nations, called and chosen. Because the Father has now given me a love for those of other nations that He's called and He's chosen from the other nations as well, because it takes many nations to serve a kingdom. So what I would say is it's time. It's actually past time to connect to the Most High in totality, and you cannot do that unless you transform your mind. Our people have a special place in the Most High's heart. Our job is to be that example, that set apart example to the other nations. He's going to start taking out the darkness in his nation, because as we know, judgment starts at home. So we have to have a mindset that when people start dropping on our left, on our right, those we love, those we know, we have to be ready to endure until the end. We have to be ready to just keep persevering in that faith, keep again moving in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And sometimes that might just be doing, everybody's not a teacher, everybody is not a preacher. Your job might just be to be that example, to live out the Father's word and let your light shine so other people can see it. But it's time for people. The Hasatan is out here snatching souls. He's after minds. He's after spirits. So, and that's where a lot of my blog and a lot of the videos that the Father has me working on right now entails. Especially one of the videos, Darkness is Coming Part 2, touches on that. It touches on a dream. And if your mind is not totally transformed to that of Yeshua HaMashiach, the Father's living word, and so you're not totally connected to the Most High, you're low-hanging fruit for the adversary. And you might think you're set apart. You might think you're a Christian. You might think you're a Muslim. You might think you're doing the right thing. But let me tell you, you are about to get got by the adversary when things are happening right now where people are hearing voices, people who are not schizophrenic because of the technology that's out there. There's so much technology where people might be, and I'm not doing this to scare people. I'm doing this to inform. The Father wants those that are His of all nations to be informed. The time is now. It is now to get connected to the Most High via the transformation of your mind and the pouring out of the Ruach HaKadosh. So I would say get in Father's word. If you don't use our platform, use another platform, but just make sure that platform is sound. If the word does not line up with the Father's truth, or if they're giving you a whole lot of commentary, a whole lot of lip, and they're not giving you a whole lot of the Father's word, or you don't see them actually living the word, move on. We're playtime is so beyond yesterday. We have to be totally connected to the Most High, and that can only come with a transformation of the mind, which the English constantly likes to use heart. It is not about how you feel, it's about your mind, the transformation of the mind, and the pouring out of that Ruach HaKodesh that seals you to the day of redemption. So, those are my words of advice. Get connected to the Most High, cry out to Him. This is faith unapologetic. Your faith has to be unapologetic. I don't care if it's your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your child. You cannot let them hold you back from the calling that the Father has called in you, because as He tells us, many are called, but there are only few chosen.
Right.
And we need to remember that. And the time is now. It's now, because the darkness is coming.
Woo.
It's here.
Mm.
Praise the Most High, Yahuwah. Again, family, Todah for your testimony, Todah for sharing, personal spaces of your life. It's really, you guys allow yourself to get uncomfortable to do the things that the people need to hear. And it's been a journey just having this conversation, and it's been great. We really appreciate the time and the opportunity to spend with you. With all that being said, we want to again give all praise, honor, and esteem to the Most High Yah by way of His only begotten Son, Yahushua Hamashiach. Hallelujah.